Hello, I thought today I'd show you how to make a fun little project. It's a little coaster or mug mat. It's a hexagonal shape, but it's done in triangles on the front there, and they're all little folded hexagons that make the triangles. So I thought we'd have a little go at that. It's kind of firm, it's got a layer of batting in there, and it's got several layers of fabric, so it's quite solid feeling, so great if you're going to put a hot coffee or something on there. And it would be great done in any kinds of fabrics. I've used two different fabrics, a stripe and a dot, but you could use all different colours. You could do something that's more seasonal. You could do a little bit of Christmassy fabric. You could do something that matches a particular table setting or particular colours for a gift for a friend. There's so many things you can do. So what we're using is fabric hexagons. So I've done two different colours, and you need 4 of each colour. And now the hexagons that I've used have sides that measure 3 1/4 inches, in case you want to know that. But something that's going to be the right size for a coffee cup or something like that would be a good idea. So I've used 3 1/4 inch side hexagons. As I said, you need 4 of each plus 1 of the batting. Now the batting I've used is a cotton poly. It's the Hobbs Heirloom one that's fusible. So it's a 80-20 cotton poly, and because it's fusible I can iron it to one of the shapes. So 2 of the shapes stay flat, 2 of the hexagons, but 3 of each colour get folded and pressed in half. So I've already done that pressing, so just straight over in half so that the raw edges meet, and there's a nice long fold in the middle. And this one piece, which you don't see, but we know that it's there because everything's nice and tidy, and it's actually sitting inside there, this other stripy one, depending on what fabrics you're choosing, of course, as to what shows. And the other hexagon is going to be the one for the back. So I'll just press that quickly onto my piece of fusible batting. It's only a fairly thin batting. It wouldn't have to be this particular batting. It's just that this is what I have, and because it's fusible I thought it would just be just right for the job. So that's fused onto there now. And now it's just a matter of laying these folded ones around so that the raw edges match. So I'm going to lay that one on first. This is not rocket science, this is kind of fun. This is also a great way of using up fabric, because there's so much fabric that ends up just in a small space. So if you've got a lot of fabrics that need using up, this could be an answer. And so that one goes there, and the next one goes, so you just go from corner to corner. So you put the next one over the top there, and just try and keep them lined up as you go. And then, so we're alternating the fabrics because we've got 2 fabrics here. And then this one goes across here. And then it starts being just a little bit more confusing because it kind of looks like we've covered the whole thing, but we're not quite right because we've got a whole shape there. So we pop this one on here, but we've got to flip that underneath the first one that we put down. But keep your edges lined up as well. And there's one more to do that too here. And so that goes there. That gets flipped up there. So again, just watch those little edges, try and get everything lined up at this stage, and we'll pop some clips or pins in to hold it in place. It should all meet in the middle and at the edges, so that the edges are nice and straight, ready for sewing. I've got some of these lovely little clippy things here. Well, I'm not going to clip them just yet because I'm going to lay the other piece on ready for sewing. So the other piece we're using is what ends up on the back of the coaster, and so that goes now right side down onto that. So everything should now line up nicely, and I'm just going to pop some clips at the corners so that it doesn't move, and then I'm going to go to the sewing machine. Giant clip. So I'm going to start sewing just near one of the corners here. So I'm going to leave a gap in the sewing so that we can turn it the right side out. So I'm going to start probably 1/2 inch before a corner. I'm just using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to go all the way around and stop just past that final corner. So there's a gap between 2 corners for turning. So we'll just start over here. Nothing terribly hard about this. You want to give yourself at least 1/2 inch before the corner, where you start sewing, so that when we turn the corners out, there's something to turn out. when you get to the corner, just leave your needle down if you can do that with your machine, so that you can just pivot it round. I'm just coming up to that last corner, pivot, and just again sew about ½ an inch beyond, not too far because you've got to have enough room to turn that through at the end there, and do a little back stitch at the beginning and at the end there. And then I've got it there, it's all sitting nicely together. I'm just going to clip those corners now so that when we turn it out there's not as much bulk in the corner. So don't cut your stitching. I know that you know that, but I feel obliged to remind you. So just cut those corners out so that when it's turned there isn't that bulk of that piece of fabric and batting right in that corner there. Okay. Don't need all that rubbish getting in our way. So we've done all the corners. Now we're going to turn it out the right way. So this time just hold it so that you're holding against the single piece of fabric, so that the other bits turn through and they're all sitting in the right position. So it's a little bit of a tug of war that we do to tan things out. However, irons are great because they iron all the wrinkles back out again afterwards. It's not a very big hole for this amount of bulk to go through, but I think we're going to get there. Too much, can we just not watch this? So it's popped through, and now I usually just use my finger, but you could use a little chopstick or a little turning tool to just poke those little corners out. So they're not sharp corners because it's a hexagon, not a right angle corner. However, it still looks better if we can get a nice sort of point at that corner, and by clipping those little corner bits out like we did, that will allow that to sit quite nicely at those corners. And this little coaster's nearly finished already. Quick and easy for this gift giving season. You know that any season is gift giving season. It's always gift receiving season, so it must always be gift giving season. Oops. Just this last one, just near where we started sewing there, just that little bit more fiddly because there's not as much seam to push against there. But that's all done now. And now we've just got this opening here, which I'm going to suggest you might like to hand slip stitch closed. Because of the bulk, it's quite hard to sort of do it any other way. I'm generally not much of a hand sewer, however I have found that this is the best answer in this instance. So I'm just turning that in. You could press that in if you wanted to, but just that ½ an inch that it would normally have been stitched. And you get quite a reasonable edge along there, and I've got a needle and thread ready to go here. And a slip stitch is just a little over stitch just to get that opening closed. So you don't want to see too much of it. Oops, bring that needle up. And I'm being watched, so now to get it right. So just a little, now when you do a little slip stitch, you can go straight across and pop your needle diagonally through so that most of the stitch is within the fabric and there's just a little over stitch. So I've gone straight across and angle the needle through to come back out again the other side. And if you do that all the way along, you'll find that'll be a nice neat little closure, which most people probably won't even really notice unless they go looking for it. So I'll just keep doing that, and then we'll get the thing. So I finished my slip stitching there and tied my thread off, and now I'm just going to give it a quick press and then do a round of top stitching so that it all sits nice and neat and tidy. So just make sure at this stage that you don't do any pleating, you know, don't catch in your iron some of those bits because they're all sitting loose now. It's kind of a fun little mug mat, coaster, whatever you want to call it. You could make bigger ones for placemats using larger hexagons. So that's all looking nice and tidy, but I feel it will look better if we do this row of top stitching around. So I'm just going to go to the machine and do that. It helps hold it all nice and flat as well. So normally we might think of doing 1/4 inch, but because we had a 1/4 inch seam allowance and that's quite bulky with the batting, I'm going to come a little bit more than a 1/4 inch in, probably 3/8 inch. I'm just going to go all the way around. So the same thing when we were sewing it together, we stopped at the corner and we pivoted. So if you can leave your needle down, that's really helpful. This is great if you're going on a quilting retreat and you want a little gift, or you just need a mat for your own coffee mug if you're going somewhere, or if you just want to give a coffee mug as a gift, you could give a little coaster with it. As I said, you could make sets of them to match the tableware. Somebody's colour scheme in their home, and that's all done. And there we now have 2 little mug mats or coasters. So it didn't take long. These are a little bit pockety. You could, if you were giving a little gift, you could actually tuck little chocolates or something in there as a little gift, maybe, possibly. So little hexagon coasters, mug mats, whatever it is that you want to call them. As I said, you could make them larger, make table mats for them out of them as well, same sort of thing. Kind of fun. Choose your fabrics, use up your fabrics, because they do use up quite a lot of fabric for the finished size. So it's a great way of using up some bits and pieces that are sitting around. And there's your hexagon mug mat.